Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started in the interest of time. So first, just to be clear, we'd like to go ahead and convene the first meeting of our new season, the September 12th Penn Branch Citizen Civic Association meeting. One of the things, I think all of you all who managed to get here, our meeting time we changed at the request of a lot of people with children, so the meeting time is actually 6:30. Our effort is next month that we will start promptly at 6:30 and get going. There's a couple of things since this is the first meeting. Normally we do a lot more heavier advertising. We should have had something concrete in your hand, and we'll talk more about that in the membership drive. But we're low on signs, low on people to help get the newsletter out, and we'll be working on block captains just to reinvigorate it, because it takes a team to get a lot of this, and it takes a lot of work to get this out, get all the information out. So we have a great agenda today. We have Councilman Robert White at large, who's been a strong supporter of Penn Branch. He will be attending. We have our ANC Commissioner, Phil Hammond, who's going to speak about zoning. We have our State Board of Education representative and president, as well as our, now what I call our partner community, Hillcrest Civic Association, Karen Williams here. And we also have her husband, Earl Williams, who's the president of DC, I've got a lot to remember. DC Federation, Citizens Federation? I should know. I should know. I've actually been on the board for I don't know how many years. But we have Earl Williams here. So we have a lot to talk about. I think we're going to, we have a fairly full agenda, but what I wanted to do is go ahead and get started. But before we get started, we have some minor housekeeping to do. But first of all, for those of you all who attended the Penn Branch annual block party, which was a major success, I have to thank over and over again our recording secretary, Tawana Banks. She's the one who pulled together volunteers, and it was her drive that she wanted to make sure that this happened. Last year we did it. It was an impromptu event that took place in the back of our yard. This time we had great participation from DC, strong support from the mayor's office, our councilman's office, Hillcrest, our community, where people used to say we're rivals. We're not rivals, we're partners. They donated 2 great cakes that we had for the event. Great pictures. Kip School donated face painting. So we had a very full event. We had catering, we had food. Pictures will be on our website and distributed soon in our upcoming newsletter. So again, this is what we want to have as a community. We want a chance to meet our new neighbors that are coming into the community and our old neighbors who have been here. That's the whole genesis of this, is to give people a relaxed chance to meet and talk. The dinner dance that we used to have was cost prohibitive. We think this is a better venue. It's outside, it's free. The only thing we need to do is address mosquitoes and flies and things I despise, and I think we'll be better off if we get that taken care of. So I tell you what we're going to do. Normally we do have our men in blue here. Okay, Lieutenant Jameson, one thing that we'd like to start, we'll start with the report. Then we'll have our ANC person that covers part of our jurisdiction, Mr. Phil Hammond. And then we expect, and we'll be cognizant of Councilman White's time, because he wants to start at the top. So we might have to make some minor adjustments in the program. When he gets here, he said he'll be here around 7. That may or may not happen. So one thing that we can talk about is by having our crime report, if you're ready. We changed. It's 6:30, and I'll email it. Thank you.
I apologize for being late. I hate being late for anything. Happy Sunday, I guess we have now. The crime of 605 is pretty good, pretty decent. Well, crime in itself is not good, but it's down, so that's a good thing. We have, can anybody hear me? Yeah. We have one ADW, which is at the 1400 block of 41st Street Southeast. We had 4 robberies, one in the 2500 block of Penn, 4300 block of Baker, 4000 block of Alabama, and the 3800 block of Alabama. It was 3 burglaries, one in the 2900 block of Nelson, one in the 2300 block of Penn, which was domestic related, and 4400 block of Sutton Avenue. 4 stolen autos, 4300 block of Baker, 2900 block of Fairlawn, 4100 block of Alabama, and 2300 block of Dallas. This is PSA 605, by the way. And we had 6 Step models, 3000 block of K, 4100 block of Alabama, 4100 block of Sutton, 2900 block of Nelson, and 3200 block of Highwood Drive, and 2700 block of Fairline. Valley crime is down 38%. Property crime is down by 20% for a total overall crime reduction of 24% in the last 30 days. One quick note, I see the councilman walking. One quick note, before we went on summer break, we was talking about some of the burglaries, these sheds. Over the summer, we did catch the 2 guys. They fessed up to 41 shed burglaries, and the U.S. Attorney doesn't go on bond the next day. That's the bad news. They back out until pending trial. Unfortunately, they confessed to, I'm sure they thought they did more. Doing the debrief, they would not disclose where their pawned or lawn equipment. I'm sure they didn't just have it up in their house. We did a search on it. None of the stolen property was in their residence of record. So hopefully during the trial phase, any plea or deals will have them give up what they have taken on this property. That's one good thing happening this summer. Any questions? I know it's been a good while since we've been here. Go ahead, sir.
I just want to make sure I'm hearing you. So you said they were released on bond?
Yes.
Are they on the streets again?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, security cameras. Yeah, the security cameras for, I guess BC is still doing the program. You know, the end of the fiscal year is coming up in 3 weeks. I'm sure they got money to spend before the new budget starts on October the 1st. So there's reimbursement for that. Also, those cameras have done a lot for us over the summer. People's private cameras have been catching crime incidents and things. They do help. You know, more cameras, the better. The latest count was about 200,000 cameras in this city that's recording 24/7 that we can tap into. So that's a lot of cameras. And that's not even 200,000 cameras. That's including traffic cameras, speed cameras, red light cameras. Those cameras you see get catch you speeding, they record 24/7. They just don't record when you speed. They actually record. Just don't want to just record like the one branch has. So they just continuously record, and if something happens in the area, we can tap into that and help us solve unsolved crimes. Yes, sir.
For the cameras, is that purchase and installation, or
Just
just
the purchase. I think you have to go online to register it, and they come by and see. It has to be external, not internal.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. Any other?
Lieutenant Jameson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So for those that have questions about the security cameras, several people, they reimburse for external cameras up to $500, which that's a lot of camera. All you have to do, if you go to our website, we have suggestions about the cameras that you can purchase, the forms, and the applications. So all you have to do is click through, so it makes it pretty easy. I've done the camera comparison, the price comparison, the difference between the types of cameras that you can get. There are 3 basic types of cameras that you can get. Something like the Nest camera, the cameras that you see purchased at Costco, and the kind that you can purchase through your own security camera, your security company. But the ones at the security company tend to be a little bit higher, but up to $500. And let's say this is September, so those funds they can't be guaranteed after September. So we just want to make sure you're aware of that. So we're going to, since Councilman White is here, we'll make an adjustment if it's okay. That we do so, so we don't want to keep him waiting since he's already here. But while we have your attention, one housekeeping matter that we have. You notice we have LaDonna. I keep telling her, I keep blending people together, Laverne. I know. Laverne Thomas. So the housekeeping that we have is we've been kind of flying solo without a parliamentarian. Laverne Thomas wanted to do this from the very beginning. It was a little bit on the shy side about raising her hand. So now that we've got her confidence, so the executive board voted last night to move forward to approve her, but we need to bring that before the full body. So what I'm asking in the motion is to approve Laverne Thomas as the Penn Branch Citizen Civic Association parliamentarian.
So move.
Second.
Second? Anyone opposed? Okay, so move. Laverne, welcome as parliamentarian of Penn Branch. And by the way, she'll do us quite justice. Laverne has already started unofficially from her seat. So if you ever heard people raising objections saying, wait a minute, it should be so moved or that's been Laverne always in the corner. So we've already have someone that's supposed to move forward. So we'll move on. Thank you all.
Good evening. Thanks for everyone's continued support for our final year. Councilmember White has been a longtime supporter of the Penn Branch Citizen Civic Association. He spent our final dinner dance with us. He's been supportive almost on a weekly basis for us and our initiatives. And his office keeps a watchful eye over the neighborhood and any issues that we have. He's one of our first people to call. Including last night when we had a water main break, and his office reached out to me, asked if everything was okay. So really appreciate him. We're excited to have him here. His time on the council has been noted by several different things from what I've heard. And the number one thing is his passion. He's passionate about certain issues that go on in this city, and his passion on the council is unmatched. He gives his heart and soul to the council, his heart and soul to the city. He's a great public servant. And with that, Councilmember.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to say thank you for such a kind introduction from Roy, and really thank Roy and Jimmy and the executive board for all the work that they do, all the advocacy. They certainly reach out to me and to other council members frequently to keep us abreast of what's going on in the neighborhood, what you need, what you support, what you don't support, and I know, having formerly been president of my local civic association, that this volunteer work is often thankless, but you do it for your community. So I do appreciate the work that the board does, that this entire association does, and just want to give congratulations to Laverne for stepping up. And a lot of times it's easier to kind of sit quietly, but you do need people to take leadership positions. So congratulations on the position. I'm sure a couple of people here give you a hard time as needed. But Roy mentioned a passion for my job. I am this month 1 year into being an at-large council member, and it's a job that I absolutely love. I'm a fifth generation Washingtonian, and I'm not going to get into kind of my long speech that's really about why I ran. But the long and short is, as the only college graduate in my family, my existence in this city is vastly different than anybody else's in my family, because my family has struggled significantly, and in fact, almost all of my family has, over the past 15 years, been priced out of the city, including my dad and my siblings. And that's heartbreaking for me. It's heartbreaking for a lot of long-term Washingtonians that have seen the same thing happen, or who are feeling really stretched at the margins themselves. So when I ran on the idea of being a bridge for people who are being left behind or feeling like they're being left behind in the city. I was very honest about my intentions when I ran, and I try to continue to be very honest about my intentions and my purpose on the council. So I look at things based on the way that they affect me and my family and people like my family. And I think that that's an important voice to have on the council. So when I ran on 4 issues: education, affordable housing, workforce development, and returning citizens. And the reason I ran on those issues is because those really are the keys to protecting people who want to be here, protecting people who want to stay here. And the returning citizen piece is somewhat personal because when my brother returned from incarceration, I saw how difficult a time he had, even though his family was relatively stable. And I thought to myself, well, if my brother has this difficult a time, I can't imagine what the average person returning from incarceration in D.C. is going through. And I know that they needed a champion on the council who would be more concerned with the issue of returning citizens than the fact that returning citizens don't vote in large numbers. So I brought together a transition team to really help me go through and vet a lot of the ideas that I campaigned on, and really to bring some of their own expertise to the table. And what we did was we hashed out the strongest legislative plans that we could within those 4 priority areas, and we created a transition report so that there would be a document for citizens to see exactly what I hope to accomplish in my first term. And at the end of the term, should I run again, you would be able to look at that document and look at what I've accomplished and either say, this brother did what he said he was going to do, or this brother failed. But I know I won't fail, so I believe that I should make all that information public. A few things that we've been successful on so far that I'm very proud of, and I give a lot of credit to my team. I have a very talented staff that is passionate about this city and the people in this city as I am. That is a basic requirement for working in my office. But in our first budget, we were able to help secure $2 million for adult learners. So people who go back to school for literacy, to go back to school to get their GED, or for any type of job training, to be able to really utilize the same type of program that our students utilize, to take Metro for free. Interestingly, how this came to me is that I was visiting Jimmy at the Washington Literacy Center, and I was shocked to hear from the students that one of the biggest hurdles for them going back and getting their education and staying in those programs was the cost of transportation. And of course, I thought this cannot be the roadblock between success and standing still, the cost of transportation. So I was so proud that we were able to work with Jimmy, Councilmember Alyssa Silverman, and many of my other colleagues, Mary Che, to get that funding. We also were successful in getting $600,000 for the Office of the Tenant Advocate. I've seen them do some really strong work on behalf of renters who are feeling bullied by their landlords in this city, going to court and representing our residents when they feel like they don't have a voice or a strong enough advocate. And so we were able to get them funding for 4 new staff positions for their office so that they can represent more residents who are really being pushed around by bad landlords. We were also able to get 2 new staffers, caseworkers for the mayor's office on returning citizen affairs. And that was an uphill battle because that was something that was not largely supported. But when we have an office that's supposed to be supporting people returning from incarceration, then I believe that office has to have the resources and the manpower to actually go out and advocate for them, to do more than hand them a piece of paper and say, call these agencies. They need to be able to help them find housing, help them find jobs. Because these brothers and sisters, if you give them an opportunity, almost every one of them is going to run with it. But so many doors are closed on them that we had to make sure that we can give them a few more resources than what they already had. And one of the last things I want to mention, I can't take too much credit for this. I really want to give the credit largely to my colleagues. But the council, in working with the mayor, was able to increase the budget for the Office on Aging from $39 million to $45.5 million. Because again, this is an agency that serves an increasingly aging population here in DC. And most of our elders are frankly people who have been here for a long time and through some of the toughest days that DC has ever seen. And we do have an obligation to serve them and to ensure that they can remain in their homes. And since the Office on Aging is helping to keep our senior residents active and helping to create programs and fund programs that keep them in their homes, we wanted to make sure that they had the resources to meet those goals. I want to run through just a few more bills that I've introduced. I don't want to go on too long because I always feel like I failed if people get bored. But one bill that I'm particularly proud of is it's called the Begin Act. The Begin Act stands for the Bolstering Early Growth Investment Amendment Act of 2017. And what this does is it recognizes both the lack of availability for early childhood development programs and the cost of those programs. The average cost for child care in the district, for accredited child care in the district, is about $1,800 per month per child. And when we have lower income residents that need assistance from the government, they are handicapped because many centers won't take vouchers because the city does not pay how much it costs to educate those kids, and that reduces the number of slots available for low and moderate income families. And if we want to get serious about reducing the achievement gap, then we have to make sure that we make these investments on early childhood development. There certainly is no way around it. And study after study by national educators and economists have really shown that there is a strong monetary return on investment in addition to the benefits to our community. Less incarceration, better health, less early pregnancies, the list goes on. And at some point I believe that we have to start to make that investment in our youngest kids, like this gentleman up front here, who doesn't seem to have any problem. We have to make these investments in our kids, and I will admit I'm a little bit biased. I have a 14-month-old daughter, and in her first few months, when my wife was on maternity leave, every day I came home from campaigning, I would see her doing something new. And it really made me realize as a parent how quickly the brain develops at that age. And as I started to read into the science of it, I found that 85% of poor brain development happens between birth and age 3, before this kid ever gets to preschool. And the way that the brain operates when it's building its synapses in these early ages, if you don't use parts of the brain, they essentially prune themselves. And so you can't really make up for lost time when you're talking about early childhood development. And I'm excited that this bill is getting a hearing in just a couple weeks, a joint hearing in the Education Committee and the Health Committee. So I hope that you'll look at the one-pager we handed out, consider reaching out to your council members in support. I've also introduced a bill that would allow more DC residents to attend the University of the District of Columbia for free. Right now, if you are, I think, the valedictorian or the salutatorian, you can get a full ride to UDC. But frankly, I believe if you're in the top 10 or 25% of your class, UDC would do much better with some of our stronger students here in the district. And many of our students, frankly, could use the free tuition to attend college. And I think the University of the District of Columbia is a tremendous school, and we have to make sure that we have as few barriers as possible to higher education for our students. And the last bill that I will highlight is the Medical Marijuana Certified Business Enterprise Performance Amendment Act. And what this bill does, it doesn't change the number of marijuana centers here in the city, but what it does do is it gives preference to minority-owned and local-owned businesses in getting the licenses for these facilities. Because I have a concern that this marijuana is right now a $14 billion industry in our country, and that's just in the limited legal spaces that it exists. And it will magnify and magnify and magnify. And if you look at other industries, whether it's development, hospitals, railroads, banks, anything, if you look around, you will not see black businesses in the top tier of any of these industries. And I want to make sure that, particularly because our laws and our incarceration has been so harsh on African Americans, that those folks have an opportunity to play a foundational role in this emerging industry. There's only one or two new industries in a person's lifetime, and this $14 billion industry that will continue to grow must not exclude, frankly, the people that have had the disproportionate brunt of our criminal laws placed on them. So that's a little bit of what we have been working on. We really do work day and night to try to be strong advocates for you and for this city. We try to be very thoughtful and deliberate in the work that we do, and we hope that you see it. If you don't see it, I hope you'll tune in, and anytime you don't agree with me, feel free to reach out. I will always have an open ear to try to be a stronger and stronger voice for you. But I appreciate you having me this evening. You'll continue to see me around. You'll continue to find me in my office accessible. And I do hope that you know that I find it to be a distinct honor to serve you on the council. And if there's an opportunity to take questions, I'd be happy to do so, but I don't want to mess up the agenda, so I'll ask the board. If anybody has any questions about anything I've said or anything I didn't say, please feel free. Your hand went up so fast that it made me nervous. Yes, ma'am.
Go to UBC for education. Why can't this be all over?
Because if you ask why doesn't my UDC bill apply to the rest of the colleges in the District of Columbia, that's a great question because we have some of the best universities in the country, but we can't. The district government has no say in what they charge their students. Thank you. We do have the DC TAG program, which will give you some money, some local money, to attend those universities. But while we can work it out with UDC to allow them to have them allow DC residents to attend for free, we just don't have that authority over private universities. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Jelana. I'm a pediatrician down here in Southeast DC. I applaud you for the BEGIN Act. I think it's very affordable, quality childcare, hard to find. Does it specifically speak to special needs children? Because there's virtually nowhere in Southeast where special needs children can go in early childhood.
I appreciate that question. It speaks to students with special needs in the sense that in the calculation for the reimbursement rates will include the increased cost for educating children with special needs, which I think is one of the biggest barriers for centers that don't have enough slots for them. But I've also been recently to visit the National Children's Center, which I think is doing an incredible job. And frankly, one of the reasons I love them is because the majority of their students are students with special needs. So I'm working with them to understand what they see as the gaps in the system so that we can really be a stronger advocate for them. And if you have some thoughts based on your work, please I'll give you my card, shoot me an email, give me a call, and I'd love to get some of your thoughts. Yes.
Well, of course, you know, I'm a really strong advocate of early childhood education. Thank you for introducing this bill. So I would plan everybody in this room to go testify because we cannot change the achievement gap in our city without starting with our young adults, and it's a much better investment on our dollar and return for our dollar.
You heard it from our school board members, so I feel like there's no more authoritative voice on this. No, I do appreciate that because what you deal with and what you see is you struggle with how do we try to make up for lost time, and that's always going to be a losing battle if we don't make these investments early. So I appreciate that, and I do hope people will testify. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I did come in late, but this is another one of my parents who go to the same school, and I do have a child with special needs. But because her needs don't necessarily affect her in the classroom, DC doesn't necessarily address them. So we've had to go outside, like go to Children's Hospital, things like that, to address them. And unfortunately, the way they classed everything, if she was having uproars in the class and throwing chairs, they'd be on it because that would disrupt the academic process. But because she's a quiet child, I can see the social cues and the things that will make it difficult for her, whether it be in education or to hold down a job or just establish, long-term maintaining relationships, whether casually or romantically. And it's very disheartening to see that you can't get what you need going through DC public schools. So that's great that you're doing that, but unfortunately that takes out the level of kids who are not being disruptive, who don't have anger issues. If they're on the spectrum, they have to be doing something really outrageous, And then on top of that, when you have parents who are willing to go, you just say, listen, tell me where to go, and I'll go there. They look at you like you're crazy. Whereas it's the parents who really are not interested or maybe just a little less motivated. They are pulling them by their hands, their teeth, their feet, and they're telling them everywhere they have to go. And so that's very frustrating. So I hope that if you do have a level of care for those children with special needs, that you deal with all of them, because that's why they call it a spectrum. It's not just the children who are, showing certain types of behaviors. There are children that will get lost, when you shake them out. They will get lost in the sauce because they're not giving that type of behavior. They're not the squeaky wheels, so to speak.
I appreciate that comment. One of the things, unfortunately, about the city, so much has improved about our city over the years, but one of the hardest jobs in this city is to be a parent of a student with special needs because you have to be such a consistent advocate. I don't know if if there are things that it should be fleshed out in the IEP that haven't been, or if there are ways that we can work between you and the school to kind of help amplify your voice, I'd be happy to do that. And I also should tell you that, I said broadly education is one of my 4 priority areas. Well, I've tried to drill down on these priority areas a little bit more. And so within education, I looked for the aspects of education that I thought didn't have strong local champions yet, because for me to be an advocate for the same issues that 3 other council members are an advocate for, I think is somewhat of a waste. And so the 3 areas that I thought that I could do the most meaningful work were early childhood development, adult education, and special education. So I'm actually working actively now to get up to speed on the status quo of special education in our city. And part of that is just talking to parents about the experiences that they're having and what they're not getting from our schools to see how we can improve it. So if I could also give you my contact information so that we could have a chat just about how we can help you and your daughter, but also how you think that your experiences could help other parents in the city. I appreciate it. I'm going to take this, Jim.
Good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing?
Okay.
So my question is, within your priorities, what is the consideration for like classroom engagement? Because a lot of people talk about how things need to change as far as like how you're targeting, as far as like the age group special education thing. But at the end of the day, one problem that I noticed from the kids that I work with outside of school is that when they're in class, their problem isn't like how people are targeting them. It's the fact that the work that they're given isn't engaging them, so they're not interested. What's your consideration for that?
So I appreciate the question. One of the things that I think that the council is not the most equipped to do is to determine curriculum. And so I try to exercise very, very strong oversight. I dig into the weeds of what DCPS submits to us. But what I think would really not be the best is for me to try to trump the curriculum, especially when we have hundreds of people in Aussie and DCPS that really are doing that work. But I try to be observant about what's happening, what's working, what's not working, so that I can fulfill this in my oversight role. So I will keep an eye on that. I will talk to some educators about what they're seeing, and I have a lot of friends who are teachers who do not mind having very frank conversations with me about what they're seeing in their schools and their classrooms, and I appreciate the insight, so I'll look into it.
So if I wanted to stay up to date on that aspect of the conversation, who would I get in touch with? Where would I go to find that information?
My education legislative counselor name is Brianna Bledsoe. I will.
It's on the contact. It's on the begin on that.
Oh, here we are. Yes. Thank you. Her phone number and her email address is here in the Take Action section of this this sheet right here. You had another question?
So that if the children come over here with educational plans, having kids sit there into their own time.
I'm not breaking the law, but I don't find that tremendously surprising. As I mentioned earlier, we still have a lot of work to do in this city on special education. I mean, the stories that I hear from parents about what they're going through is heartbreaking.
Okay, we have another question right here.
Is the shortfall of special educational needs financial or is it human resource?
What was the beginning of your question?
Is the shortfall of special education in the city, is it due to a financial issue or is it due to a human resource issue?
I couldn't tell you at this point. What I did, the first thing I did was I focused on the transportation aspect for adult learners, and then I spent months developing the Begin Act, so I'm still in the learning process for special education.
Because I don't know, I'm still new to the way DC public school works, because normally a school in another state would be funded through the state, but yet special education would be funded through the federal government. So that's why I asked that question, because the money should be there with her. I mean, with the IEP, they have to follow that by law. People go to jail for not following it.
Well, we have pretty decent special education laws in the district, but if you talk to a lot of parents, they'll say that the school system is not meeting what the law requires. So that is just to say we still have a lot of work to do in special education. We get federal funds like every state by the same calculation as the states do in most respects. So, you know, if the funding was there in the state, the funding should be there in DC. But I'm still working to get up to speed on special education.
As well as those who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they need held accountable. That's what, you know, when kids, whether it's done or not, is accountability. Like I work in Prince George's County, right? And once, you know, they got hit with a couple lawsuits, they tighten it up a little bit as far as with
we've been under some lawsuits. We've been digging for years, the city, from under some lawsuits that came as a result of our special education laws, and that has really pushed us ahead significantly, but we still have a ways to go.
Perhaps we need to bring Grosso out here, and then after Grosso, we get superintendent of the schools.
Councilmember Grosso, who chaired the education committee, I think that's especially considering the number of special education questions, I think that's a great idea. But if you bring me back out here in a few months after we work through the Begin Act, I'll have more answers for you as well. But I think that any elected official that you invite here should be here. But you invited me, and I appreciate it. And I will be back. I may sneak out at some point to try to catch my daughter before she goes to sleep, but I'll hang out in the back a little bit in case you have questions. And again, I want to thank the board and thank all of you for having me this evening.
Thank you.
So, I think it's fair we can call next round our favorite council person. As Roy said, Robert has been with us from the very beginning. So we're going to keep the agenda moving along. Next we have, as you know, we've been talking a lot about the Penn Branch, Penn Hill project that's taking place. Recently was announced that Planet Fitness is coming to Penn Hill, so that's very good news. So there's a zoning hearing that's going to come up on October 2nd that we're going to have. So what we have is our advisory neighborhood commissioner person, Phil Hammond, our advisory neighborhood commissioner, will talk to you a little bit about the zoning hearing that's coming up on October 2nd. Mr. Hammond?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I too want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Williams and his executive body for giving me an opportunity just to say a couple of things. Two things that I wanted to mention. The first thing actually is our next ANC meeting, which is going to be the 21st September. And as a guest, we're going to have somebody to talk about the House of Roof, who wants to open some property on Pennsylvania Avenue. And I think it used to be an old school for kids across from the fire department. I think they want to, I think they want to open that home, the House of Roof. So I'm asking you, or inviting you guys to come to the next meeting, which is 6:30. We changed our time as well. It used to be 7 o'clock. But people wanted us, they felt like we stayed too long, so they wanted to change our time. So it's 6:30 now. And we meet at 3200 S Street Southeast, the Round Methodist Church. So I'd like to ask you to come to that meeting and future meetings as well, because we need your participation. The second thing I wanted to talk about was, on the back table, I put a notice about an upcoming hearing that deals with the Gerald Lynch project at Penn Hill. And one of my obligations is to make sure that my constituents know about these kind of events. The hearing is going to be October the 2nd it's at 6:30 at 441 4th Street Northwest. And basically, it's what Gerald Lynch is asking for is a map amendment approval. They want to change the current zoning, basically from a MU3 and R1B to MU4. That's to increase the footprint on the lower side of the shopping center, so they can build some type of residential property for that development. So I hope you guys had an opportunity to pick this up. Because basically what it's asking for is for people to be part of the hearing. If you have any concerns, any issues, or if you support the project, quite frankly, we're asking you to come to that hearing and voice your opinion. Keep in mind that it's basically just for a map amendment. It's not necessarily right now about the project itself. So I'm asking you all to take the opportunity, because it's certainly important to get development in this neighborhood. My constituents are basically the ones that I have talked to. And there have been some people who are, I won't say they're opposed, but they're for it, but they have some concerns. So I'm asking them as well to come to this hearing and make their case for either or pro or con, but basically to come to that hearing. So it's an outreach. It's an outreach from me, your ANC commissioner for this area, to speak to that issue. Now, some of the people that I've talked to as well, like I said, some of the people that I've talked to are not necessarily for the project. And I'm asking them as well to make sure you give your voices to this project, because it's important to hear both sides, certainly. So I would ask that you take the opportunity to come down. Now, the notice that speaks to the fact that, you don't have to be there in person. You can provide your testimony in writing through email or letter. But certainly there are options for you to be part of the hearing. So I think it's very important that we stay on top of this, because I'm sure, as I stand here, and before I sit down, I'll take a few questions. I'm sure there are some people who feel like they don't want to see this development. But the majority of people that I've talked to want to see it. And I just want to make that clear. So, did everybody get a copy of the notice that was on the back table? Answer that question. Okay, is anybody who didn't get a copy of the notice? Oh, okay. All right. So if you didn't get a copy, hopefully there's an extra copy that you can have in response to that. The other thing I would mention in regards to this project, the ANC did a resolution to support the project. One vote on the ANC, so certainly my vote did count. We had 5 people in support of the ANC resolution, and 1 person was opposed to it. But it did pass. So I would also mention that if there's anybody in the room tonight who would like a copy of the resolution, that they should contact Marjorie Ashby, the office manager, on 202-584-3400, and she will see that you get a copy of the resolution. So, with that, I'll take one of the questions that I can just handle. Okay, yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. The question that I have is, for the project as it's proposed, and I'm not totally familiar with it, but if we go and testify and say in support of the change to the map amendment, what is the obligation on the developer in exchange for getting the support of the community and getting the map amendment changed? Is he obligated to build a specific type of project, or does this just let him build whatever he wants that can fit within that map amendment change? In other words, if we support the change, what guarantee do we have that he will build a specific type of project that we want to see there?
The builder has basically said that he's going to work with the community to make sure that we get what we want. And he's been very open, transparent. You know, he's come to quite a few meetings. He's had an open house. He's talked about the project. So I think he can, basically, I talked to him today because I wanted to find out kind of where they were. They are still willing to make sure we are happy, regardless of what we want. One of the things that I told him that I was certainly interested in was a chronic care unit on the top of the building, on the upper level. We have no kind of medical facility right now in this area that really, that deals with those kind of issues for the community. And he said he was working on that, and he had some prospective medical groups that was interested in that. So that's certainly one of the things that I was concerned about. The other thing that I told him specifically, I said, this community, we do not want any subsidized housing, any group, how can I put this?
Section 8.
Section 8 housing. I was specific when I told him, we don't want those kind of housing because we want to upgrade the community. We want to be able to actually increase the tax base in the community. And we want to be able to bring in other high quality retail to support that Penn project. So he's on board with that. And certainly, he's going to work with us because he's made an effort already to work with us. So I think we have an obligation to make sure we hold him to the fire, speak to the fire, and make sure he works with us to try to give us exactly what we're asking for. And I'm sure we're not going to get exactly everything we're asking for, but if we can get 85% of what we're asking for, I think that's a big deal. Personally. Another question.
Just two things. I've been in this area my whole life, and I'm just wondering why now? That place has been that way for 50 years. So I'm thinking, why now are they so interested in developing this area? Like putting more houses and things of that nature. And two, I'm on P Street right there at that intersection, and that's going to be the opening to where I'm right on the end. What's the city going to do to help with the foot traffic? Because there's going to be more foot traffic, and with the parking situation. In the past, when Central Baptist was there, when there's funerals or conferences, the flow level would go into the parking lot and sometimes on the street, or if there's large funerals, things like that. When you have more people coming in, like what are they going to do? Are we going to get regional parking? Or are they going to make allowances for us so that folks aren't just, kind of...
That's part of the conversation.
I don't know.
That's part of the conversation. Certainly, when you ask...
Because I saw that on the plans, but I wasn't... people can change their mind just like they did over there in Skyland with Walmart. So, you call me what you want to, but I don't believe it.
Well, people have been asking for a while for that space to be developed. I think Crystal Petey's was the other developer who walked away from the project.
Historically, do you know why they walked away? It wasn't good for them, or?
I don't know. I think it was financial,
okay.
Quite frankly, why they walked away.
They didn't feel that the city was giving enough to them, maybe, or?
Man, I'm only.
Because I didn't know. I'm just.
Yeah, I'm just saying you didn't know, but I think people in this room who do know.
Okay.
The people who have been involved in trying to make something happen at that facility. And as I said, I think it's important. And you raised some good questions, traffic concerns and other issues like that, that we make sure we hold him or get involved with the planning of that going forward. The planning of whatever he puts there to make it what we want it to be. Like I said, you're not going to get everything we want. But we will or should get some of the things we want in this community so people will feel like they're actually seeing some development that they can live with in the community.
And maybe something for older folks, not to say anything, because I'm getting this.
Next question.
Something for the older
Make a
people.
motion that people stand up to to speak, because a lot of folks.
Okay, I've been told to ask people to say that with the question. And introduce yourself too, if you don't mind.
My name is Edwin Jones. I live behind the shop.
Okay.
My question, has there been any kind of study of the effect of the new construction on the topology, the geography? Because it seems like that whole block is in motion, slowly but surely, and it's having an effect on the structure. So how will adding to it or digging down, because as I understand it, there's a creek. There's an underground water. So has that question been asked? Or?
Well, these questions have been asked. Like I said, he has had, and I don't know how many people in this room came to his open house and raised those concerns. I mean, because he certainly has been trying to get people involved in this process before going forward. Yes, there are underground springs in this community, and there are a lot of them on people's properties and things like that. But certainly there are engineering technology to be able to deal with those issues. So, I think we all have issues and concerns, pro and con, about the project. But I think we need to, going forward, on October the 2nd at 6:30, people need to be in that hearing raising these same issues that you're raising now. I can't address them all because I'm not the developer. I'm only your commissioner, and I only raised my hand and voted. I was one of the 5 that supported it. So I can't answer your questions, all your questions about development. But I do want to make sure you understand how important it is for us to be there, just like these people in this room tonight, be there in numbers at that hearing. Make the effort to be there and try to make sure we let him know how important we feel this project is for us to be involved in it, and we're going to take some, we're going to be on top of it. Yes, sir.
I just want to address this issue. They did actually do core drilling, and they did sampling all around the back of that project site, so they are aware.
I can't hear you.
I said they did core sampling and drilling behind there, so they are aware of the makeup of the ground,
Okay.
and I'm sure they're factoring that in. I don't know any of the actual details, but I did see.
Thanks for sharing that. Yes, ma'am.
So hi, my name is Wanda. I live on 34th Street. I guess my question is, and what I'm concerned about is, are there, for example, any zoning rules that you're aware of that would prevent high-rise development there? The reason I'm concerned about that is when you look at the Southwest waterfront, it does not look like, Washington, D.C. that I know. I came here to go to Howard University. I didn't grow up here, but I remember the fond memories of going to Southwest waterfront, looking across at the marina and the other side and so forth. But you can't see anything now because of the high-rise buildings that are coming up. So I guess my concern is, are there any zoning laws that you're aware of that would preclude them or prevent them from sort of creating that same kind of town center that goes up with, for example, retail in the basement, and just sort of changing the scope of this neighborhood? It's a beautiful neighborhood. I'm just concerned. Are there any zoning laws that would prevent that?
No, there are not, but the map amendment speaks to that issue. The height of his proposed building is 50 feet. And that's pretty much, where the physical structure is now, the upper step, the top level is now. 50 feet will basically raise the new building to the height of, I think, the air conditioning unit that's on top of the whole structure up top.
Okay.
Wouldn't be any higher than that. Next question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Megan. I live on Carpenter Street. My husband and I just moved in a few months ago, so forgive me if this is redundant, but does the association have a consolidated position that they plan on presenting at the zoning hearing in October?
Penn Branch?
Yes, sir.
That would be me to answer. 2 seconds, I look at. So, right now, our consolidated position is that we're generally supportive of this, but we're supportive with a caveat. So, we understand there were concerns about height, and Laura can tell you more detail about the heights, but we are concerned about the height, and that's a question. So, there are 2 stages to this. So, one is moving forward and supporting the zoning amendment. So, generally, that's something we're supportive of. But we're encouraging people that those other concerns, the buts, that you raise those concerns into addition to our being supportive of the amendment. So we're not opposing that, but we want our residents to make sure that if you have a concern, now, we've been talking about this since August 10th of 2016. We were one of the first communities that they reached out to. So I see a lot of people that come to the table lately, but we've been talking about it for almost every meeting ever since. And I've been almost at every ANC. But what I want to make sure is that as a community, that I don't want to see, I attached a video and I sent it to the listserv. You'll see a video of a bunch of empty seats at that June 12th hearing. We don't want that. So if there's a concern, don't raise it to me. Don't raise it to him. Raise it to him.
You can raise some of it to me.
But what we want to make sure is on October 2nd, if you have those butts, raise them, because we're not going to get everything we want. Some developers run roughshod, they do it, they get the support, they don't ask. Jair Lynch has been asking us and working with us, but we do want to make sure we register that comment. So just to be clear, as a community, we're supportive. But we're supportive with the caveats, because there are certain things that we'd like to see.
Jimmy, I just want to piggyback off on what you said to the younger generation or the younger community within Penn Branch or Penn Hill. It's our responsibility to come to these meetings and be proactive. We can't show up on one meeting out of a year and then voice all these concerns. You have to be involved. We can't blame it on the elders anymore. It's our responsibility to be proactive in our own community. So if you don't come to the meetings, if you don't come to when they have that beautiful thing with the building display of the plans for what they were going to do to Penn Hill, you know, they were very vigilant on communicating with everybody. Even Vince Gray was there to hear some of our concerns. We have to be involved. If you want to have an opinion about your community or be involved to your own community, you have to come to these meetings. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I appreciate you sharing that information. It's very important. I would say that basically I have 2,000 constituents. They don't all live in Penn Branch, but a number of them do. And basically, the support that I'm getting is that people, they want it. People have come to me and said to me that we want development. Certainly, we're going to have to work with you to make sure we get what we want, but we do want development. There will always be a number of people who are naysayers, but then at the end of the day, when the project is finished, they'll be the first to say, man, I like that. This project is great. But I just want to say, as Jimmy has said, let's fill up that hearing room on October the 2nd and let the zoning board know and the developer know. We're in this, and we want to make sure you do kind of what we want you to do. So I'm just reaching out to you to help me do my job. Any other questions before I sit down?
I guess my question would be, I completely agree.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Dan McGrath, Megan's husband. So completely agree. We should all be there to participate in these venues and these meetings to show our kind of support and how we're involved. But to my wife's point, I would think that Jared Lynch, the developer, when he hears me to say, "Hey, I want a coffee shop," and my wife says, "Shut up, Dan. I want a yoga studio," and it's a little different if, say, we started doing like some Survey Monkeys at Penn Branch, so that you can say, not only are we supportive, but 75% of us are concerned about, drilling into the land and making sure that this, and 50% of us are concerned about parking, and 40% of us want a coffee shop, and so on and so forth. So we can do something, to my wife's point, a more consolidated position than, yeah, we're supportive and random other things. So it's yes, and yes, we will be supportive. We'll all go on October 2nd, but can't we do something through you as our commissioner and through Jimmy as our fearless leader at PBCA to present something more? And maybe we've already done this, and then I'll shut up and sit down.
I think there have been some surveys.
Yeah, we had a survey.
Yeah.
Still speak.
What were the results of that?
I know we have a survey.
So, again, just to be clear, this, I'll see you, I'll get to you. This is on the zoning. So that's what we're looking at. So we've got a whole lot of other things, windows, angles. That's not what this is about. This is the zoning that gets us to the next stage of the conversation. So 2 things you should remember. One, there is a survey, so if you're on the Penn Branch DC listserv, which is why I want your addresses, I sent that out this weekend, and it has the link to the hearing, it has the link to this, and the zone. And then you'll get another one with the sheet that Laura Richards did that will explain what this is about. It's about moving from MU3 to MU4. Mixed use 3 to mixed use 4. That's what this is about. There is a link that will also include, that I sent out this weekend, that is on what you want. That's Jair asking about coffee shops and others. 2 separate things. So we want to make sure we keep them separate. October 2nd is about the zoning. The next, what follows next, is about everything else that we want. We have a lot of wants from whether you want Planet Fitness or not, it's going there. But if you want your Starbucks or Dunkin', that's what all this is about. So there's a lot of moving parts to this, but this is the first stage. And the zoning is important because there's discussions about a grocery store. Those discussions will not move forward until they know what type of zoning that they're working with. So that's what I want to make sure that we're clear. But we want to make sure, registry of opinions, Laura Richards has been very active. I send it out on the listserv, so look at those listservs. If you have a question, respond. But I'll reiterate, and you'll get one probably tomorrow, again, with all the documents and links that we discussed today, everything that Mr. Hammond discussed. So, love to see everyone at the ANC meeting. I send around that listserv. If you have a question, respond, because it's growing bigger. We have about 230 people on there, but we want to make sure that those listservs contain a lot of valuable links and information. So we want to be clear. So as a community, we wanted this development to happen. Let's make no bones about it. We want to walk to a store. We want decent shops. We want everything that we see happening in every part of the city. So I'm not questioning our reasoning to have something that's nice in our neighborhood that our children can walk through and that we can enjoy. That's what we want. We've been working with a committee to try to do the same thing all up and down Pennsylvania Avenue. Stephen Downing is in the back of the room. Earl Williams is on that committee. Several people have been working, and it's really saying our time over here is now, and we want some development. And we want measured development, and we want development that respects this community. That's what we're asking. So if you have any more questions, I'll be glad to ask them anytime, but I'll reiterate, August 10th to 2/16, we started talking about this every meeting, and we continue to talk, and it's in the newsletters, and it's on the website, and it's been emailed. So we'll answer any questions. We're going to make sure that, as using the words of Alberta Paul, I want to be perfectly clear so that we've been working on it. So I want to keep us going. Mr. Hammond, thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you for his wife, Mary Hammond, who's been the supporter, so we really appreciate it. So we do have one more. Mr. Hammond mentioned the House of Ruth, and don't forget I am executive director of a nonprofit, so I know how difficult that is. So we actually have Elizabeth Kecker in the room from House of Ruth. So we thought it was one of our members suggested that she come to this meeting. I'll be mindful of the time. I think I see Yvette Alexander in the back. I can't see that far. Do I see you?
Yes. Yes.
You know my vision is So former Councilwoman Yvette Alexander is also in the back of the room, so I want to acknowledge her. Thank you. And Ms. Kecker, I know you wanted to speak, so if you come to the front of the room, that'll be great. Thank you for coming. And we'll keep the rest of the meeting moving quick because we have a couple of very important announcements. Thank you.
So thank you so much for letting me speak. I'll be very brief. I mainly wanted to encourage everyone to attend the ANC meeting, as the commissioner said. We're very excited to be on the agenda on September 21st. And last week I was going door to door. I met a couple of you, and if you saw the flyer from House of Ruth in your door, that was from me. We own property 2910 and 2916 Pennsylvania Avenue. Sorry, let me start. House of Ruth supports women and children, survivors of homelessness and domestic violence, with 13 houses all in DC. Many of them are shelters or long-term homes for women and children. The 2 other houses one offers therapy for all victims of domestic violence, free of charge, and one is a developmental therapeutic daycare, which has been located for the past, I believe, 10 years. It's 20 years old, but we've only been on Pennsylvania Avenue for 10 years. And the buildings that we were in, that are right here, they're a block away. Am I pointing the wrong way? It's 29 this way, okay. So, we kept putting like gum and tape to hold them together, and finally, we just couldn't have a daycare there anymore. So the daycare is actually temporarily housed in a church in another part of PC, but we are rebuilding, and our architect will be at the ANC meeting on the 21st and present plans. We're moving quickly, but we really want the neighborhood's input. We really want your thoughts, your advice, your input, and your discussion, so that as we build this for the future, it's something that we're talking about having a room for the neighborhood to meet in. We've definitely talked about how to make sure that we're not adding to congestion and parking problems, and making sure that this is really focused on bus and transit, which is what most of our moms use anyway. But I just want to encourage you to come, and if you have any questions or thoughts about it after tonight, I'll be here. Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much. So again, Elizabeth, thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be able to accommodate you, especially perfect timing having Mr. Hammond mention it. So there's a couple of announcements I just also want to take, but before we do, again, Stan, who you see filming, our website had a glitch, but it'll be back up and running, and it's not due to money, it's actually due to a gateway issue. But we post the proceeds of this meeting there, and we circulate them. So if you're not on the listserv, sign the list in the back and you will be added. You can watch the videos and we can send the links to people. A couple of announcements. So on behalf of the Mackey family who suffered a death, they send a thank you for our support. And there was an event, in our signature event, we make sure we send sympathy cards. A couple things that's important. We are in our membership. We had a great picnic celebration, block party. But then one of the things we did is we spent a lot of cash, and so we do that through your membership dues and the donations that people did. A lot of people made donations, but it's our membership period, and the membership cards will be here. Good thing about the membership cards, if you shop at the Penn Branch Shopping Center, almost every single store offers a discount there. You can get a discount from everything from Subway to the liquor store, and especially to the cleaners. They all offer something if you have your current Penn Branch card and you present it. So we want to make sure you'll be hearing more about the membership drive that starts. We're looking for block captains, people to participate and be active in the community. We're also looking to fill slots on our committee. So if you're interested and concerned about development, the legal committee right now has 2 lonely people, and we would like to have other people join it, that committee. Yeah, we want many people. Laura is the chair. Laura, stand up so people can see you. Laura Richards has been the faithful chair of the legal committee, so she'd like to have some company, and we'd like to have people there. You're not required to be an attorney to be on the legal committee, but you will have to know some details.
I don't want to leave out Sylvester Bush, who was the sole person who responded to our last call and actually came up and got really active. And Joan was Joan was on the legislative committee for some time, and we'd love to have Joan back. And
she's hiding in plain sight.
And let's see, I know there are a couple of other folks. So please re-volunteer. So do come because there's a lot going on. And it's this is not just legislative, it's zoning. I mean, it's regulatory, which includes zoning and legislative, but it includes all the various regulatory bodies that are covered by specific committees. Thanks.
Thank you. And likewise, if you're interested in education, our education committee is in the same situation. We have 0 people right now in our education committee, and we really do want people to join our education committee. We can't call it a committee with 0 people, so we want to make sure we have people there. One other announcement is everybody knows I'm the executive director of the Washington Literacy Center, which Councilmember White mentioned. If you know any youth that are low-level reading, 12th grade and below, ages 18 to 24, the Washington Literacy Center, Ward 7 and 8 have the highest literacy rates. Washington Literacy Center will have a job training program, workforce education program. It's paid. It's a stipend. And if you know anyone that's ages 18 to 24, it's recruiting. And so again, we welcome, there's no charge to participate in the program. And in fact, if you're 18 to 24 and you fall within that category, you pay the stipend to participate in that program. So with that being said, I don't want to prolong this meeting. I want to know if there are any other announcements. Well,
there are 3 things we have to do. We need to do a treasurer's report, treasurer, and, Tony Reeves.
Education committee, is Marla Dean still part of that committee?
Marla Dean is still chairing that committee. And I should note that usually if we don't have a committee, if we have a committee of 1 person for such a long period, we don't maintain that committee because it's no longer in the true sense of a committee.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Is the Washington Literacy Center partnered in any way with the DC Re-Engagement Center?
Washington, we have a caseworker that works with them, but it's not an official partnership. So I'll be glad to talk with you afterwards about solidifying something. What's your name?
Mike.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello. So this is the treasurer's report for the time period of 6/09/2017 to actually today, 9/12/2017. So we spent quite a bit of money recently. We've had a lot of ups and downs as far as our bank account. We had over $1,626 in donations. Sounds like a lot, but we spent over $2,000 for the block party, so it's still a little bit out of our account. We had over $160 in new membership for a total of $1,786 in new deposits for that time period. For the withdrawals, we had $811.23 for block party expenses. For the toilets, the truck to get the tables themselves, and various other expenses. We had a total of $1,166 for the food, which was actually kind of a bargain. That was $3 per person for 300 people, and we had over 200 people there that attended. So that was pretty good. We had $90 for the website development. This included the address renewal that happens every 2 years. Keep your name. $50 in meeting photography. $103 for the June food, meeting food, and $28 for the park cleanup in June as well. $200 for welcome baskets for our new neighbors, and that totals to $2,448.23 going out in withdrawals from our accounts. The ending balance for that time period is $1,940.86. This unfortunately brings us below our recommended amounts in our bank account, which I believe is $2,500. So we are below that amount. So that's why we're looking for membership and donations, of course, as always. I love donations, but membership going forward. This is a new year, so we're all starting again. I need to pay. I'm sure pretty much everyone here needs to pay. So it's another year, and I would look forward to making your membership again. So, can I have a motion to accept? Thank you.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor of accepting the treasurer's report?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
So, like I said, we're toward the end of the meeting, so a couple of things. Everybody knows Mr. Bussey was one of the presidents of Penn Branch Civic Citizens Association, had a stroke. He had been in recovery, and at some point he should be home. I don't know if he's home already, but just want to let you know, keep Mr. Bussey in your prayers. You get a chance to support him with cards. I know a lot of people have already visited him, so we're thankful for those of you all who have come out to visit. I want to make sure I don't miss any other announcements. Are there any other announcements or any other issues that people want to raise? And then we have new business. I see 2 people, Mr. Williams, Alberta Paul. I can't see.
You first, Alberta.
Can you stand up, please? So we can hear you.
Nope.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank the young lady who spoke earlier, the young lady. I've been at this for 32 years, and now I'm the best I can do you. I will still be around to mentor and engage. I am the Public Works Committee Chair, and I am working toward the 20th anniversary of 9/11 in our 9/11 Park, which many of you brand new neighbors have come out and supported. So I would like to encourage you to join them. If you don't want to be a legislative person or educator, please join the Public Works Committee. We can use your help to do a whole lot of things, not just the Gateway Park. We try to keep our eyes on every street as it relates to infrastructure. So I need your help. And I look forward this October for us to do our fall cleanup, and we'll send a flyer out now through the listserv. And please make sure you put your email address on the sign-in sheet. That's how we can quickly communicate with you and get you involved. I'm looking for 100 people to come out in October and support cleaning up the 911 park.
Thank you very much, Juan. My name is Earl Williams, and two things, they both are germane to Hillcrest. One is Hillcrest is having a bus trip to Delaware Park on October 21st. The cost is $45, but you get $30 back in free play. You can play the horses, you can go to a casino, or you can go shopping. It's great. We just took a trip a couple months ago, and the bus was full, and we had a great time. The other thing is that Hillcrest Day is going to be celebrated on September 30th at the Recreation Center. You are all invited to come and join us for Hillcrest Day. It's a free event for the community. Come on out, bring the kids, have a great time. Thank you.
Earl, as long as you have the floor, could you put on your other hat and tell us what's going on with the Federation of Citizens Associations?
Well, we've been on a hiatus for July and August. We're having a board meeting on Wednesday, and our speaker, our guest speaker for our September 26th meeting, which will be held at All Souls Episcopal Church, is Anita Bonds. She'll be talking about her legislative history and what she has accomplished, and we have really tough questions at our Federation meeting. So if you're available, I'll send a notice to Jimmy. You can put it out on the list. Any other questions? Thank you.
And we'll make sure. Ms. Alexander?
Good evening. It's nice to be here as a resident and not a council member. So I'm glad to be back. But seriously, there is a neighbor, and I don't know if we do anything for birthdays, but Mr. Irvin Kemp is celebrating his 90th birthday this Saturday coming up. And he's been in Hillcrest. He's a neighbor on Highwood Drive. He's been in Hillcrest for over 50 years, he and his wife Evelyn. So I thought it would be a nice gesture for the Civic Association to do a fruit basket or a card or something for his 90th birthday. This Saturday, September, I should know the address. I know the house. He's in the 3400 block of Highwood.
So he's in the 3400 block of Highwood, which makes him Penn branch.
And he's been here for over 50 years.
Okay, so let me know. We'll make sure to do a basket and something special for him. I'll get with you to make sure that we do recognize him. So let me know, our recording secretary. So we'll follow back up and make sure we recognize him. Cynthia, I see you in the back.
We will be teaching CPR in the area for everybody to learn, children, CPR, as well as adults. Kids falling out here in DC and they're dying because they're not getting the CPR. And actually, we will give you all the dates, and it's free.
Okay, give me the information. I'll make sure it's on our listserv. And on the listserv that we send out. So if you're not on the listserv, make sure you have sign-in sheet. We'll add there. And also, one other announcement on September 23rd, and if you balancing, because I know we're nonprofit, but the Ward 7 Dems was at this meeting. The chair of the Ward 7 Dems also happens to be me, so it'll be my first full meeting, so I ask you all to come out and support that agenda. And I'm also leaving space for if you happen to be on the other side, an independent or Republican, if you're having a meeting, I'll be glad to announce that too. So we'll do that. And then finally, in October, we're going to discuss, we're going to focus on community infrastructure in October. And by infrastructure, that means all of the issues that people have raised, from everything from traffic to streets, to the speed humps, to the Old Street Wall, to
to the construction, but it's an infrastructure meeting, so we're gonna have several people from the community area to talk about all of those infrastructure issues impacting Penn Branch. So you'll get lots of notice, but I want to make sure that everybody, if there's something that's, whether it's the one-way street signs that you don't like, or the hours on the street signs, or the 10-speed humps that you have to hit when you drive through the neighborhood, or the structure and questions about the Oak Street wall, we're going to have all of that we're going to address in our September meeting, but you'll receive a sufficient amount of emails and prep prior to that time. So, final thing before we leave, do we have any new neighbors that have not previously been recognized, or visitors that haven't previously been recognized? If so, please stand up. And this time we don't. Our neighborhood is changing quite a bit. We welcome the change, we welcome the development, measured development. So I tell you, look out for more emails and make sure that you do sign up for the listserv, and we look forward to hearing from you. And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Anyone opposed? So moved. Meeting adjourned.